Are you prepared for a complete grid shutdown?
Hi there,
Hi,
I'm Audrey,
and I am Masana.
and on this channel, we share our financial journey on our homestead. And today, we really wanted to speak to you about preparedness in this current climate in South Africa.
Yeah, so this is a very important topic because right now in South Africa, we're experiencing stages 6, sometimes 4 and 5 of what they call load shedding, which is really rolling blackouts. At certain stages, we are receiving around 10 hours of interrupted power. So this is actually something that we really, have to plan through. A lot of youth don't really think through what would happen if the power completely went off.
Yes, so we are going to say some things that are going to be relatable to a lot of young people because we are young. And we're going to share some of the things, with you, and hopefully you can pick up a few things or two that you can also do so that you're better prepared. So number one, what we have done is we bought a homestead. We currently live on our homestead, a piece of land where we grow our own food, we have our own electricity and all that other stuff. And we just thought that having a homestead is one of the first steps to being prepared.
Absolutely. So because we have our own space here, for us, Audrey and I, we're very, very close with our families. And when we got this place, we were really thinking about their well-being. If anything were to happen, we are in a position where we can actually bring all of them here and, we can all live together. So the real question as well is, if you have loved ones, what is your plan for them? If anything happens, the grid goes down, what will you be able to do to take care of the people you really love?
Exactly. So the first thing you have to think about when you're looking for a home in the next few months, next year, think about the space that you have to bring in other people or to do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then number two is just electricity. So for us, we are already semi off grid, which is a great bonus, right?
That is pretty great. So the thing about, the grid situation is that according to our utility provider, or research as well, there is a possibility that if the grid were to collapse, it could be out for between 6 to 14 days.
That's crazy.
So that would be a very long time, without electricity. So then it becomes, very important to actually have contingencies and solutions to kind of weather that storm.
Exactly. So some of the things you want to do is obviously buy some solar lights. We already have our lights connected to solar, and our geyser is the solar geyser, and our food, we cook it with gas.
Yeah, absolutely. So we, as Audrey said, we are already semi off grid. If you do not necessarily have what we might have right here, then you do have to consider what is it that you could possibly get. Things like solar lights are going to be important, or things like stocking up on possibly batteries, for any lights whatsoever. Because during that period of time, it will be very important then to have light and to be able to cook and possibly, power some of your devices as well.
Exactly. So buy some extra batteries. If you're going to be using gas for cooking, buy an extra bottle of gas. Gas is very affordable, but in case, gas runs out, make sure you have some wood. We actually stock up on lots of pellets. Use some wood to cook. Buy a lot of coal or charcoal or whatever it is so that you can have something prepared when the electricity goes down.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we would want you guys to know is being prepared when it comes to water, because water is everything. You need it, your plants need it, your animals need it. It's going to be hectic if you do not have water in your home.
Yeah. So it's very easy to think to yourself, wait, if the grid goes down, grid is electricity. It has nothing to do with water. But that is actually a big mistake, right? Because again, your water is pumped through something, a pump or something that is moving the water. And that thing is connected to the grid, electricity. So without power for 6, possibly, 14 days, we are going to get a situation where there might be no water, or if the water is there, it's very, low pressure or not clean at all.
Yeah.
So it is going to be very important then to have alternate sources of water around you.
Exactly. So stock up on water, that's still or prepared water, spring water, stock up on that water that you can use for at least a week. If it's possible, start harvesting water from your roof. or if you can't harvest the water, just have a water tank, a JoJo tank, which you can just store your water from the municipality and just make sure that it is filled up. Another thing that you could have is having water purifying tablets, because if the water now starts getting pumped a little later after it's been baked or after the grid or during the grid collapse, you might need to actually purify it because it might not have gone through the process that it usually would have gone if there was power.
Yeah. So we are fortunate here to actually have, a dam, two rivers flowing through. So we would actually be better positioned than most people. But, most people, if you're living in a flat, it becomes really challenging.
Yeah.
If the power were to go out, you would have to remember situations like COVID where you would go to a store and the store was completely out of necessities.
Yeah.
Water would be one of the first things that would actually go. So you actually, should probably consider stocking up on water whilst you have that opportunity.
Exactly. So the other thing is food. If something happens, the first thing that's going to run out of the fridges and the stores is food. If logistics are messed up, then supermarkets are not going to have all the things that you usually require for cooking, like your normal utility stuff, like your normal food needs. So it'll be really hectic.
Yeah, and we saw this again during COVID
Yeah.
when we went to the stores and then, the food had run out. Many of the products were out. And if it gets really intense, it gets to an issue of, rationing. They'll tell you you can't buy more than this. You can't buy more bread than, a loaf or so per family, which was something we experienced when we were still in the city. And I think that made us very, worried about the whole situation. It's why we got this homestead. We wanted to start acquiring skills on growing food.
Yeah, so those are some of the skills you can start learning now. Grow some food wherever you are, on your balcony, on your little veranda, in your small garden. Learn to grow food. Another thing is to just stock up on canned foods and dry foods that can last long. When you find them on special, they're running a sale, just buy more than you usually need and just stock them up. That's going to be very necessary because you never know what might happen.
Yeah, exactly. So, preserved foods, mainly stapled foods, dried fruits, things like that. They usually last very long. They go a very long way. And those are things, again, you can actually buy a little bit more each and every month. So you can, like we are doing, we make it a habit to acquire a bit more, beans and, canned goods or dried goods and things like that. So, and then we just store it in a pantry. They last very long. But in case something like this happens and we need to eat off of our own food for quite a while, we'll actually be able to do that.
Exactly. So in case you start growing your own food, learn to preserve that food, learn to can, learn to dry, learn to ferment the food so that you have your own, canned food in your own home if you have all these fresh vegetables around. Another thing you can do is when you go into like your farmers markets, buy more vegetables than you actually need and then preserve them, because usually you're buying them on a bargain, so it's gonna be great. Yeah. So another thing you want to be prepared for, that we have prepared for, is medical care. We have made sure that our first aid kit is ready for anything.
Yeah. So it's also important to understand, similar like we observed in COVID as well, if under those situations, like if there is no power and the grid is really collapsed, if you go to the hospital, you're going to find out that they're going to start prioritizing only critical surgeries. So all these other like illnesses or optional surgeries and things like that, they're going to put them on the side. They're going to tell you that they don't have the capacity to do that. So that makes your ability to take care of yourself during that time a lot more important. So we stock up on medicines, cough syrups, painkillers, things like that, bandages. We make sure that we always have them. But also the other element as well will be just to protect ourselves a little bit more. So not moving around, reducing the risk, don't drink during that period of time, or like cut down your smoking, behaviors, adjusting that behavior during that period of time.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You have to protect yourself and make sure that you reduce the risk of getting hurt as much as possible. Another thing that we would want people to be prepared for, that we have not necessarily prepared for, but at least we have a septic tank. It's hygiene and sewage.
Yeah.
You know, with us, we have a septic tank, so all our waste goes into a septic tank. But just in case it's filled up, then we would need something like a pit toilet. So if you have your own land, then you could create, dig up a pit toilet.
Yeah. I mean, look, we have, just under 2 hectares to actually work on. So if, the grid collapsed and we were not able really to use our toilets, I'm going to be very honest with you guys. I would just take the shovel and walk all the way down the property and dig a hole. Like, we are able to do that because we have the space,
Yeah.
But when you live in a flat, you necessarily might not have that luxury. So this is why Audrey was talking about, if you're looking to get a place going forward, you have to consider things like that,
Exactly. And also just look up on compost toilets. We have seen a lot of homesteaders in other places where they use composting toilets. You use a bucket system and then you sort of put sawdust to just neutralize those smells. So look at those alternatives. You need to have them ready. You need to think about it, because if the grid is down, you can't really flush.
Yeah. But the good news as well is that there are also things that you can possibly stock up just to help with hygiene, hand sanitizers, toiletries. These are things you can actually stock up and keep. Again, these things go a very long way. They last for months, if not years. So those are things that you should be looking at every month to see, do I have spare? Do I have more? Toilet paper, like during COVID, there was no toilet paper.
I know.
Toilet paper, they start rationing toilet paper. Like, I did not think that I would ever live through such a situation.
Exactly.
So, you don't want to be in that situation where you really need toilet paper and you can't get any. Luckily for us, lots of trees here.
Yeah. So leaves.
Yeah.
They are free.
Yeah.
And grass.
Yeah.
So just stock up on all the necessities that you need. Your dishwashing soap, normal soap for washing clothes, normal soap to bath. Like Masana mentioned, toilet paper is going to be very important. Anyway, you need to also start thinking about safety and security. Unfortunately for us homesteaders, we become, the main target. Homesteaders and farmers, of course, because that's where the food will be. So, yeah, people just need to start thinking about security. Switch off your lights, so that you don't attract criminals, and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like security will become an issue, right? And not just at home, because, during that period of time, traffic lights, street lights will also be down. So it's going to be a great opportunity for criminals to start innovating ways of, like, trying to get you or your things. So it's also, again, going to be important to be vigilant when you're moving around, taking care of yourself, things like that. But when it comes to taking care of yourself and your family, things like, making sure that you have, pets to possibly help you around or keep you safe. Another tough topic, is weapons. Like, do you possibly have weapons? You might need that, especially if you're in a homestead where you might be a target. People on homesteads and farms already are a target in this country. So that is also very important. But one thing as well, that we've been doing already is just creating community. Right. So making sure that, our neighbors, like we all know what's going on, how deep, like we are in terms of, like, the grid crisis we are in the country. Everyone knows what's going on, so that if anything like that happens, we're all banded together and we're working together. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that goes on to my next point, which is communication. When the KZN riots happened, a lot of the communities were told to stop communicating and going out, which was really weird, because the one thing you want to do is to be able to communicate with people around you, around your community, so that you know what's really going on and how to protect yourselves. So make sure that you're communicating a bit better with people around you, with your neighbors, your community, your WhatsApp groups or whatever. Just start thinking about those things now. How are you going to be communicating with people within your community when the grid collapses?
Yeah. And communication will become a lot more difficult because, if the grid collapses entirely, then service providers will find it more difficult to offer their service. So that means that, not only will you have problems charging your phone because you don't have power, but even if your like your phone or your devices are charged, you might not have any network reception to actually connect to and possibly get in connection with your family. So another important thing to do right now is to already speak to your family and start preparing,
Yeah.
regarding what would happen if this becomes a reality. If the whole grid collapses, where do you meet? This is something you can do right now. You know where you can meet, so that you can have face-to-face conversations, make sure that everyone is okay, everyone has the appropriate things to be safe and to take care of themselves.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people would think that this is fear mongering kind
Yeah.
of information. But I think we need to start thinking about these things, especially as young people, because we are the ones that are hardly prepared. And we noticed this when COVID happened. When we started doing homesteading, we realized that a lot of people were actually prepared for situations like COVID, which was really interesting. So as young people, I think we need to start learning to be a little bit prepared. Knowledge is power. Know what's going on within your country, your surroundings. Know what's going on within your economy. Those things will empower you, and then maybe you'll be less fearful of what could happen.
Exactly. So, I mean, we notice now that really the government is really not going to assist in much of the things that are happening here. So, it's a bit careless to think that things are going to get better, at least from their end. Which means that we then started to realize that we have to take things a lot more into our own hands to be safe and just to be secure, hopefully.
And self-sufficient.
And
It's really
self-sufficient,
important. We really need to be able to take things into our own hands. These are our lives, not the politicians. They're not going to do anything for us. So you need to arm yourself with some good knowledge and preparedness. Exactly. So I think one last thing could be fuel. If you have tools that require fuel, maybe a generator, or you need to travel somewhere, if there's an emergency, you don't want your car to be empty, you want to be able to to rush somewhere. I mean, you won't be needed to travel so much, but fuel could be something that you have to look out for.
And again, if the grid does collapse, or it gets worse than what it is right now, then you don't want to be caught in a situation where you are in a queue for fuel for hours, right?
Exactly.
Specifically if you have an emergency to get to. So it's just another thing that you can possibly plan for right now. You can get a drum, you can put it safely in a contained place, and just keep it there to make sure that if you do need it, you can actually access it.
Does it expire?
No, it doesn't, but I mean, it's dangerous, right? Like if it just catches on fire.
It's interesting. There's no expiry date on fuel.
Well, I'm sure there is. Someone I'm sure will just say there is, but
interesting. I'm actually gonna look out for it. Anyway, that was all from us today. We are hoping that you guys, you learn to arm yourself with the best knowledge. You learn to be more self-sufficient, and just take it one step at a time.
So thank you for joining our journey towards financial independence and freedom. So we'll see you again next time.
Please subscribe. That would be nice.
And share the video.
Please.
Bye.
Bye.